Hello everybody and welcome to the latest video in my rolling coverage of Dead or Alive 6. I think I've done a video on pretty much every DLC drop that we've had so far, and this latest one is one of the biggest ones yet in terms of the amount of stuff that landed within a short space of time. We've got the first part of the 4th season pass of costumes to enjoy. We also had a legacy bunch of costumes released and a couple of bonuses for people who were fans of Murray Rose or Kasumi. And of course, as I am a big fan of Murray Rose, I was very happy indeed. So yes, we're talking about some made costumes which you're seeing here. These were not part of the Season 4 DLC. They are independent and you have to purchase them separately. And yes, as usual, that comes with a disclaimer that this game is very expensive. If you buy all the DLC, you certainly don't have to. And I'm not going to comment on that, but yes, it's certainly an expensive game, and I certainly can understand why people are a little bit miffed by the ongoing cost of this game if you do want to buy everything. But in addition to that, there's also a bunch of kind of figure-hugging, science fiction, neon glowing costumes. That's for all the ladies, not including the DLC tie-in characters such as the ones that came from King of Fighters. And then there's 2 costumes which I mentioned for Kasumi and Mary Rose, which are kind of 2020 special edition bonus costumes. They are for people who have the Season 4 pass, and they're basically gold dresses. They're very elegant, and they also come with 2020 glasses, celebrating the new year in style. So there are a couple of things I wanted to address through this video. One of them being that I believe there are now 15 or 16 costumes via DLC for the women characters. At least, once again, the main characters. The DLC characters from King of Fighters and whatever don't have anywhere near the same variety, which is a pity. But the main Dead or Alive girls all have 15 or so costumes. And at this point, it's safe to say that the variety is pretty good. You don't have to be a fan of all of them. I'm certainly not the biggest fan of the sci-fi stuff, which we'll get to shortly, but overall I'm quite happy with the range of costumes I've got to choose between now. As somebody who had something like 40 costumes for my favourite characters from Dead or Alive 5, it is nice to finally get to that point where every time I fight a match I can mix and match different costumes and characters and stuff, and there's just this endless kind of sense of variety in terms of the fighting now, which is nice. It'd be nice if it was matched with some new levels as well. One of the things that Dead or Alive 5 had going for it was a constant stream of new levels to play on, and the ones that are in Dead or Alive 6 are a little bit, let's say they're getting a little bit dull. And we had one which was that beachside one to go with the first set of swimsuits, but it would be nice to have some of the more outrageous ones that Dead or Alive 5 ended up getting. Bringing back the Attack on Titan level would be really cool at this stage. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the costumes themselves, the variety between them is not huge. As you would have seen from the made costumes here, it is basically every character has the same costume with only slight variations in colour. Kokoro here has stockings on and some of the characters don't have stockings, but for the most part the costumes are quite similar. The same goes for the science fiction ones as well. There's a little bit more variety in terms of some come with kind of hot pants, some come with kind of longer stretch pants and so on. And Marie Rose's is particularly different. It's like skirty, and Honoka has also a skirt costume. But the variety between the individual costumes within the set, and this kind of carries on a theme with Dead or Alive 6, each costume for each character is quite similar. So when you buy a set, you're getting a lot of very similar costumes. The variety comes in buying a lot of different sets, which is, again, without getting into that ongoing discussion that people have, it can feel a little bit cynical. But if you're enjoying the game that much, like I am, and you're still playing it since it released, over or close to a year ago now, I don't find the expense to be such a big issue. I think that as a game, as a hobby in itself, Dead or Alive 6 is proving itself. It's a good looking game. You can spend a lot of time mastering the combos and then playing online and playing in local co-op, in local competitive modes. And it's just one of those games that racks up the hours upon hours upon hours of playing. So where I put down most other fighting games, the release of these costumes just gives me another reason to go back in. And when I go back into the game, I end up playing it, for another couple of weeks quite consistently. And then, of course, the next DLC drops and I do it again. So it's one that I don't put down. Other fighting games I do, but I never seem to put down Dead or Alive, and that's because there is that DLC that keeps coming through, and it is financed because people pay for it. No other fighting game has anywhere near these kinds of this rate of costume drops. So while you can question the pricing of them, the fact that Koei Tecmo needs to make some money in order to keep producing them, I think that is fairly it's a fairly safe thing to say. Now that we are into Season 4, there are some things to look forward to, of course, beyond what we've already got. One of them is that the next set of costumes, I believe it is the next set of costumes, will be from the design contest, which is a really good thing that I quite enjoyed that Koei Tecmo does. So each year, and it started with Dead or Alive 5, people are invited to create their own costumes for their favourite characters, send them in, and Team Ninja will pick their favourite and then turn those into costumes that will actually be available for players. Now, you don't get paid for it, so that is a little bit questionable, I guess. But it is a really good way of engaging with the fans, and for people who really have their favourite characters and really love them, it is a real opportunity to get quite deep into their favourite characters. And it's something that we see with Hatsune Miku games as well, and Hatsune Miku as a general thing. All of that stuff is generated from fans. They create the costumes based on their own visions of the characters, and then that stuff gets turned into official merchandise and products, and you see Miku up there on stage dancing in people's favourite costumes. And it's a really good way of engaging with the community and really encouraging them to be creative and stuff. And one of the earlier season design contests actually brought me my favourite Marie Rose costume for Dead or Alive 5, which was the harem costume, the Arabian harem costume. And while I'm still really waiting for that to come into Dead or Alive 6 and hoping against hope that Team Ninja will listen to me and add that one, the creativity that's on display with those costumes has always been really good, and it's always really added a good depth and vibe to the costume roster. So I can't wait to see what comes with those. We also get a new character with the season pass at some point, and that character is brought over from the beach volleyball game, Dead or Alive Extreme 3, the PC one, whatever that's called, Venus Vacation, I think it is. So there are quite a few characters that have been created for that beach volleyball game, which haven't actually appeared in Dead or Alive yet. So they're going to pick one of those characters and bring her in. I've got my money on it being Misaki, because she's also in the Switch and PS4 versions of Dead or Alive Extreme 3, so she's the most recognisable character in this franchise that hasn't been put in the fighting game yet. But we'll wait and see there. It should be good. Always new characters is a good thing. And it's just good to see that this game is still under development. One thing I would like to see Koei Tecmo start to look at, I guess, is the story side of things and the characters, because Dead or Alive 6 has such a vibrant range of characters, and a lot of people get into the series because they like the characters first and foremost. I'm one of them. I like quite a few of the characters, Marie Rose being the one most of all, of course, but I really get into this game and spend a lot of time playing it because I enjoy the characters. As you can see from this footage, I'm definitely not a particularly good fighting game player, and I'll certainly never be of professional standard, and that really holds me back a little bit from engaging with this series as much as I would perhaps like. And it would be good to see, for example, Koei Tecmo to give the franchise to Gust and say, hey, you produce all our JRPGs, why don't you see what you can come up with Dead or Alive? As we've seen with Atelier, Gust really knows how to handle large ensemble casts of characters, keeping them, keeping their personalities throughout the game and making them very character-driven JRPGs. It would be great to see what Gust could do with Dead or Alive, and I think they could do something really impressive there. Or there's another example, Soul Calibur. It's not the greatest game. There was an attempt to turn the Soul Calibur kind of experience into a kind of an action adventure thing through the Nintendo Wii. And again, it wasn't a great game, but the idea was really there. And it would be good to see them broaden this out a bit, because we're at the point now where I think Dead or Alive is quite a mainstream fighting game. It's no longer a contender. It's up there. It's obviously not the Street Fighters or Tekkens, but it's certainly one that's always in the conversation when people talk about top tier fighting games. And I think that it can't keep growing forever as a fighting game franchise. So Koei Tecmo, if they want the property to continue to expand and grow and find new audiences, they're going to need to find ways of drawing people in who aren't necessarily fighting game fans. And I'm sure they've probably got some kind of idea of what they want to do in there. But it'd be good to start seeing some announcements come through 2020 about what is next for Dead or Alive beyond the season passes, which of course I'm going to continue to buy because I'm just that kind of sucker. But it would be good to see some kind of broader strategy for the franchise emerging from here. Anyway, that's enough of a rant from me for this. I'm sure I'll be back in a couple of weeks with yet more conversations about Dead or Alive because there's more season pass stuff to look forward to. Otherwise, thanks as always for watching. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoy my videos, that way you won't miss any, and please do back me on Patreon if you enjoy them that much, because your support certainly helps me continue making them. Thanks as always, and we will see you at the next video.